Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to price your artwork and commissions, what prices should you set, and basically some tips that you can use to help figure out how much you should charge for your original artwork and for any commissions that you guys take on. And so the first thing that's really important to consider is your experience. Is this the first piece of artwork you're selling? Are you a bit more experienced with selling? I'm assuming because you're watching this video that you're just starting out and are a beginner. And in that case, that means that you are a bit less experienced. You haven't got much experience in actually selling your artwork. And normally, if you're beginning out, you should always start lower with your prices. And then as you get more experience and you've sold more, then you slowly raise them as the demand kind of increases. Because if you start your prices too high and then realize that no one's buying them, or if say one person buys a piece of artwork but you're not getting many sales and you've had your artwork up for a very long time, or you're getting not many commissions, then think about that one person that has say bought your artwork for say £300 and then you lower all of your prices, for example, to £100, then that person is not going to be very happy because of the fact that they've had to pay 3 times more for the same thing from you. So it's always best to raise your prices slowly and start lower, especially if you haven't got much experience. It's always best to start on the lower side. But that doesn't mean that you have to undercharge and undervalue yourself. It is so important that you do get enough to cover the costs of your materials and your time. But you shouldn't necessarily charge on a per hour basis, because if you think about it, when you're just starting off creating artwork, then you're probably going to make some mistakes and have to fix those mistakes when you're drawing and creating your artwork. And if you think about it, the less experienced artist is going to take a lot longer to create that piece of artwork than a more experienced artist that has done this many times before and has got into a routine of knowing what colors to use and how to apply them. And so you're technically charging people for the fact that you're underexperienced and have to take longer, and they shouldn't necessarily pay for your mistakes that you make. So always have that in mind when you're charging people. Of course, you need to cover your time, but don't necessarily charge per hour to cover the fact that you might take 20 hours more than someone that's more experienced to create your artwork, just because of the fact that you're new to this. And it's completely okay to take longer and be new to this. But a more sort of beneficial way of charging is based on the size and the actual sort of dimensions of the artwork. So a lot of people charged like a few different sizes, maybe 8 by 10, 11 by 14, 12 by 16. And so they create their standard sizes and then they charge on like a per square inch basis. And you need to figure out how much you're happy with. You need to have in your mind that because you don't have a reputation, you can't charge those big sort of dollar prices. You can't do it when you're new and just starting out. And you may look to other artists and think, well, my artwork is just as good as theirs and they're charging this much. Why can't I charge that much? And mainly that's because they've already got a reputation behind them. If you're looking up to a well-known or well-established artist and see that they're, say, charging £1,000 per artwork, and you see that their skill level is very similar to yours, you might think that you should be charging that. But you've got to take on board the many years of experience that artist might have had, or many sort of reviews and people saying, wow, this person has created a great service for commissions. They were really sort of nice and easy to deal with. They're very helpful. And so once you've got some sort of like reviews and testimonials like behind you and to sort of back you up with your prices, then you need to sort of start a bit on the cheaper side. It will definitely help you out. So for me, it can be difficult even when you're more established to come up with prices, especially if it's a piece of original artwork that you are very attached to. And there is a type of pricing where people like to price their art based on how much they like it and how sort of hard it will be to for that person to let that piece go. And so you could charge based on how much you like the artwork. I don't necessarily recommend that, but there are some artists that do that. They price their artwork based on how much they like it and how attached they are to it. And so there are those free ways. You can charge per hour, get a rough idea. Say once you've done that same piece of artwork over and over again, try practice doing, say, a portrait. If you're doing portrait commissions. Practice doing loads and loads of portraits, say 20. So you've got a portfolio to show people, of course. That's really important. If you're saying that you want to charge £200 for a piece of artwork, you need to show them and the customer what they can expect for that price and the quality that they can get. And so once you've done 20 pieces of artwork, write down the amount of time that it does take you to do each one. See if it slowly decreases and find an average for that. Usually use the most recent, say 5 that you did, and average that time, and then you'll have a rough idea how long it takes if you do want to charge per hour, and then set yourself a price of what you'll be happy to be paid per hour, and then figure that out. But you do need to factor in your experience, your skill level. That is so important. You might not be necessarily as skilled as you need to be at the moment. There's a lot of artists that have really high reputations and can charge a lot, but their skill levels aren't necessarily technically the best, but the reputation can sometimes be far more important than the artwork in some cases with some artists. So it isn't a type of question that I can give an exact amount to and an exact answer, but it is something that I can give you those tips on that will help you think about it. It is also really important to look at other artists and have a look at the prices of the type of artists that are at your skill level and are sort of at the reputation that you have. So find artists that are very similar to you in those two ways. So they're just as inexperienced as you or have got just as much experience as you, and they're also got the same sort of skill level. Look at what these artists are charging. Don't just look at one, look at a few different ones. But more importantly, look at ones that are your sort of skill level and experience that are doing well as well, because there might be some people that are like you and are charging way too much than they should be, and maybe they're not getting many sales, but you might look at them and then think, oh, I can charge what they charge because we're similar. But you've got to remember, not everyone does it right. So you need to look for people that are being successful at your skill level, at your experience, and see what prices they are charging. I think that's really important. You can look on places like Etsy. Obviously, you can see the amount of sales that artist has had. So that's a really great way of seeing what kind of price you should be charging. So definitely look on Etsy. Look at the dimension prices they sell them for, because normally they have, if they've got commissions, they'll have different sort of size options. So look at that, and also look in their about section. It might say something about how long they've been doing it and whether they've got a name for themselves. Another good thing about Etsy is sometimes they don't have a name for themselves. They're not doing anything anywhere else. They've just gone to Etsy with that artwork. And so you can really base it on the skill level with that, because of the fact that they're not necessarily well known. People are just going to Etsy to look up paintings or whatever, and they might find it. And if they've got a lot of sales and their skill levels like yours, then use those sort of prices. But definitely do your research. Don't just jump into it. Look at other artists that are way beyond what you are at the moment and charge those amounts. And remember not to keep stagnant with your prices. If you are getting such a high demand that you can't keep up to it, then raise your prices and keep raising them, because you might get to a point where your level is increasing in terms of skill level and your experience is increasing. But that doesn't mean you should keep your prices the same as when you were beginning. So make sure you keep hiring your prices as those two things increase. And especially if the demand increases, because if the demand's there, then it means those people are willing to pay for that. So you can increase your prices and charge more for those things. But anyway, guys, I really hope you found those tips useful. If you want to know what materials I am using for this painting, then they are all listed in the description with links to where you can get them. I have been working on this Kingfisher. I really hope you enjoyed watching it. I actually loved creating this one. I loved all of the pretty colours and doing the ripples on the water. It's not something that I'm used to doing with watercolours, like a water sort of effect of ripples, and it was so fun to do. I really liked it. I'm just going in with the gouache at the moment and adding all of those little highlights as well as the fine liner to add in those little details. I love doing these mixed media pieces. They are so nice to do. Let me know if you want to see a tutorial on me actually creating the sort of technique for this, because I use a lot of these for my advice and topic talks, and I'm aware of the fact that I don't actually do many tutorials with them. Also, if you guys do want to see real-time tutorials, then they are available over on my Patreon page, and so you can learn realism in graphite, colored pencil, and all of that. So there's a little sort of card that you can click right here. But that's it from me. Make sure you subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye everybody!